Hello and welcome back to How to Tank in MMOs. This is Aryalalian, and I'm going to show you a series of videos. I was not tanking this fight, but I was playing a mage, a black mage DPS in here, and we'll run through just some very basic things. I want to draw attention. I put the tank as my focus so that I could take a look at his buffs to see what buffs he was doing. One of the things I noticed during our run up to this boss was that he was really not putting buffs on, and so buffs are one of the most important things, if not the most important things, about tanks. You need to be able to put on your buffs in order to mitigate damage. But before we get into the fight, I just wanted to show some of the buffs that this tank actually had access to. This is my level 50 Paladin, and they have Rampart, which reduces damage by 20%. It's a 90-second cooldown. Convalescence increases heals received by healers by 30%, 120-second cooldown. Awareness nullifies the chances of suffering critical damage, 120-second cooldown. And we have several others. Sentinel, which is the best one, reduces damage by 40%, but has a much longer cooldown, 180 seconds. There are also cross-class skills. These are from the Marauder. Foresight increases defenses by 20%, 120-second cooldown, and then a kind of a heal, a very small heal, Bloodbath, converts 25% of damage into health, and that is a 90-second cooldown. And so through the course of this fight, I want you to pay attention. This particular Paladin tank was not very good at putting on his buffs, and he ended up taking actually a lot of damage. And I want to draw attention to right now, the most important thing about this fight is really just the dodging mechanics. You have to dodge his two attacks that he does in succession. A swinge, and then he turns around and does a lion's breath. For right now, we're at full health, and as he motions to do his first attack, the healer fails to dodge by getting behind him. And when he does his second attack, all three members, the tank, the monk, and the healer, gets hit by that. In this, naturally, with the healer dead, we were not successful in this run. But this is kind of, I guess, a great example of what not to do as a tank. So as you can see, it's very important. Once you are familiar with tanking, once you're familiar with mechanics, notice that just the ability to dodge the boss's powerful attacks can very easily make or break the success of a group. In this next boss mechanic, the other DPS failed to dodge the first attack and the second attack, and he is now down. And so now it's just left with the tank and myself, and I am doing mage healing. Naturally, we're not going to be successful in this run, and actually we ended up having to attempt this boss 3 times before the monk decided to give up, and we got a new monk in, and we were able to be successful on the 4th attempt. But as you can see, just the ability to dodge makes a huge difference. Here, I made a wrong decision. Instead of running behind the boss, I thought that maybe if I got far enough away, I could miss it, but nope, that is incorrect. But other than that, I think through all the attempts, I managed to survive. We now see, kind of turning our attention to the tank, he is finally using some of his buffs, but unfortunately, a little bit too late at the end here for us to be able to be successful. One of the most important things when engaging a boss fight is you should always start out with some kind of defensive buff, which is Rampart, which is what he has right here, to mitigate that initial burst damage that the boss usually gives, and then actually cycle through all of the defensive buffs as they come off cooldown. It's always helpful to help mitigate the damage that you normally take from bosses. And so, really, unless all of your defensive buffs are on cooldown, at no point in time during a fight should you not have some kind of defensive buff. Usually, whenever I tank, I will do a mixture of different defensive buffs, or an order of them, just depending upon the situation. Buffs can be categorized in 2 forms. One is the kind of defensive rotations, and then the other one are your oh crap abilities. So naturally here, as you can see, the tank is dead. He failed to dodge the first attack, and I just wiped it to get things over with. But as I was saying before, with buffs, you should always be rotating through a set series of defensive buffs, and then reserving certain ones in the dire situations when you actually need it. So in this one here, this is our 4th attempt now. Notice we have a different monk than the previous one. That one dropped. And in this one, we were actually successful. Again, the tank here, you see put on an attack buff, which is up there, but no defensive buff still, and he's taking a bit of damage. But thankfully, because the rest of us managed to dodge all of the boss's primary attack mechanics, the healer was still able to keep the tank up with relatively little problems. One of the things that I would always recommend to, I guess, new tanks or tanks that people that want to play tanks is to actually first play a damage dealer and just observe how tanks move, how the buffs that they use, how they avoid damage, etc. So that you can kind of get a gauge for what all is necessary. The other day I bumped into a person who was playing a gladiator for the very first time, his first MMO, and he was going to play a tank. And let me tell you, I've been in runs with first-time tanks who've never played an MMO before, and it's very sad to see sometimes how scared they are and how intimidated they can be. And so I definitely recommend take a back seat first, observe, understand the tank abilities, understand basic dodging mechanics before you attempt to play a tank. And then once you've played a tank, ironically, your ability to play a damage dealer actually increases significantly. If you notice throughout this entire fight, this last one, I don't actually take a single point of damage because I'm able to dodge a lot of the boss mechanics, which leaves the healer alone to heal everybody else. And so it's always best as a tank to make sure that you understand, one, all of your abilities, aggro generating abilities, the buffs, and then most importantly, dodge mechanics, so that you can dodge. So even if your DPS managed to fail to dodge and die, there's still a possibility, so long as you and your healer are still alive, the healer can res them up while you continue tanking the boss. So again, thanks so much for listening. Hope you come back, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time. Take care.